I never thought 3 years of building a life together would crumble over dinner at Luigi's. Melissa looked me straight in the eyes, twirling pasta around her fork as she casually announced, "Blaze, I'm going on a self-discovery trip with Jason for 2 weeks. Jason, her ex, 2 weeks." My fork froze midair as my heart plummeted. "Sounds great," I heard myself say while inside everything shattered. She smiled, relieved, and continued eating, as if she hadn't just detonated our relationship. Before I continue this story, let me know where you're watching from. Hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever felt blindsided by someone you trusted. The first time I met Melissa was at a tech industry mixer 3 years ago. I was standing awkwardly by the appetizer table, trying to look busy with my phone, when she walked up and grabbed the last bacon-wrapped date. Our eyes met, and she smiled in a way that made the room feel suddenly brighter. "Worth coming to these things just for the free food, right?" she said. And just like that, we were talking. We discovered we both loved hiking the same trails and had seen the same obscure indie films nobody else seemed to appreciate. After exchanging numbers, our first date stretched from coffee to dinner to late-night walks through downtown. Everything felt easy, natural, like we had known each other for years rather than hours. After a year of dating, moving in together seemed like the logical next step. We found a downtown apartment with exposed brick walls and big windows, the kind of place that made our friends jealous when they came over for dinner parties. I worked as a software developer for a local tech startup, and Melissa had a marketing job at a trendy athletic wear company. On paper, we were the perfect couple. Weekends became a comfortable routine of farmers markets on Saturday mornings, hiking when the weather permitted, and Sunday night movie marathons with takeout from our favorite Thai place. We had talked about the future too, not in concrete terms yet, but I had started researching engagement rings, saving images to a hidden folder on my laptop. Our families meshed well together. Last Christmas, my mom had pulled me aside to tell me Melissa was the one, and her parents had practically adopted me as a second son. Even our friend groups had merged seamlessly, creating one big social circle that revolved around our relationship. Looking back now, I can identify when things started to change, even though I refused to see it then. About 6 months ago, Melissa became unusually protective of her phone. She started taking calls in another room, and I would catch her quickly locking her screen when I walked by. When I casually asked about it once, she laughed it off, saying, "Client confidentiality, you know how it is." Then came her sudden interest in reminiscing about college days, specifically the time period when she dated Jason. She would bring him up in conversations where he had no business being mentioned. "That restaurant reminds me of where Jason and I used to study," or "Jason would love this song." Each reference was like a tiny paper cut, insignificant on its own, but painful when they kept accumulating. The unexplained absences started next. Work events that ran mysteriously late, with no social media evidence they had occurred. Coming home with her hair smelling different like someone else's cologne. Receipts for lunches, for two, on days she claimed to be eating at her desk. Our intimacy changed too. Physical affection became perfunctory quick pecks instead of lingering kisses. Conversations that once flowed easily now felt forced, full of small talk and empty spaces. I told myself it was just a phase, that all relationships go through ebbs and flows. There were other signs I deliberately ignored. Our mutual friend Alicia made an odd comment about seeing Melissa at a wine bar across town when she had told me she was working late. Another friend asked about Melissa's new photography hobby that I knew nothing about. Posts on her Instagram became selfies and artistic shots rather than photos of us together. Then came our anniversary dinner at Luigi's, the Italian place, where we had celebrated every special occasion for years. I had made reservations weeks in advance and was planning to discuss our future more concretely. I even had brochures for a weekend getaway hidden in my jacket pocket. The restaurant was busy that night, the ambient noise of clinking glasses and conversation creating a warm atmosphere. Melissa looked beautiful in a new dress I had never seen before. We ordered our usual favorites and talked about work friends' ordinary things. Everything seemed normal. It was after the main course, when our wine glasses were nearly empty, but before dessert arrived, that she dropped her bombshell. She placed her fork down deliberately and took a deep breath. "Blaze, there is something I need to tell you," she began, her voice carefully controlled. "I have been doing a lot of thinking about my life direction, and I feel like I need some time for self-reflection." I nodded encouragingly, thinking this was leading to a discussion about career goals or perhaps a solo retreat weekend. "I am going on a self-discovery trip to Sedona," she continued, "with Jason, for 2 weeks." The name hung in the air between us like a physical presence. Jason. Her college boyfriend. The one she claimed was ancient history, but whose name had been popping up with increasing frequency. With Jason, I repeated my voice, sounding distant to my own ears. Yes. We reconnected recently, and he has been going through some similar life questions. The retreat is about spiritual growth and finding your authentic path. Her explanation sounded rehearsed words flowing too smoothly. I asked pointed questions about the retreat, the accommodations, the purpose. Each answer came quickly, but her eyes would dart away when she responded, focusing on her wine glass, the candle, anything but my face. Sounds great, I finally said, not trusting myself to say more. The dessert arrived, tiramisu to share, but neither of us did more than push it around the plate. The drive home was silent except for the radio. She stared out the passenger window while I gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. Inside, my mind was racing, trying to make sense of what was happening, but externally I maintained perfect composure. That night I lay awake, watching Melissa sleep peacefully beside me. How could she rest so easily after shattering everything? Her face looked the same as it had for 3 years, but suddenly she was a stranger to me. When morning came, I tried to restart the conversation over coffee. About this trip with Jason. We already discussed this, she cut me off firmly. It is happening, and I need you to be supportive. Later that day, I overheard her on the phone with her sister, voice animated with excitement. 2 whole weeks in Sedona with Jason. The resort looks amazing online. She sounded like a different person, vibrant in a way she hadn't been with me for months. I called my best friend Taylor that evening while Melissa was at yoga. She is going on a trip with her ex for 2 weeks, and calling it self-discovery, Taylor said incredulously after I explained the situation. Blaze, you know what this is, right? It could be innocent, I said weakly, but even I did not believe that anymore. Check the booking, Taylor suggested. If they really are going on some spiritual retreat, they would have separate rooms, right? That night I did something I had never done before. While Melissa showered, I checked her email. It took only minutes to find the resort confirmation, 1 room, 1 king bed, couples massage package included. The evidence was right there in black and white. When confronted with this information, Melissa became defensive immediately. You went through my email. That is a complete invasion of privacy. Is the couple's massage part of the spiritual journey too? I asked quietly. Her face flushed. The package was cheaper that way. We are just sharing a room to save money. It does not mean anything. I suggested that perhaps I could join them. After all, I could use some spiritual growth too. Her reaction was immediate and visceral. Absolutely not. This is something I need to do with Jason. He understands certain parts of me that you just do not. That sentence told me everything I needed to know. The week before Melissa's departure was excruciating. She packed clothes I had never seen before, revealing outfits that certainly were not appropriate for any spiritual retreat I could imagine. Her phone buzzed constantly with messages from Jason about trip planning, and she always took these calls in another room or on the balcony. One evening, Melissa left her laptop open while she went to grab takeout. I had never been the jealous, snooping type, but something compelled me to look. There in her messaging app was a conversation with Jason. I only read a few lines before feeling physically ill, Jason. Can't wait to have you all to myself for 2 whole weeks. Melissa counting down the days. Blaze has no idea. I closed the laptop and sat in stunned silence until she returned. When she walked in the door, I smiled and asked about the food as if nothing had happened. The next day, I met our mutual friend Jordan for lunch. I needed perspective from someone who knew us both. I am not surprised Jordan admitted after I shared my suspicions. There have been rumors for a while. I saw them together at Riverside Park a month ago. They did not see me, but they definitely were not acting like casual friends. Why did you not tell me? I asked, feeling betrayed all over again. Jordan looked uncomfortable. I thought you might know, or at least suspect. They have not exactly been subtle. That night I went through our bank statements. There it was evidence of regular lunch meetings at a cafe near Jason's office going back at least 3 months. Purchases at boutiques on days she claimed to be working. The pieces were falling into place, forming a picture I could no longer deny. Melissa must have sensed my investigation because she suddenly changed all her passwords. Her irritability increased too, finding fault with everything I did, from how I loaded the dishwasher to the way I breathed during television shows. I recognized it for what it was, creating distance to justify her actions. While she slept, I stayed up researching everything about their retreat. There was indeed a spiritual center in Sedona, but it did not offer 2-week programs. Their hotel reservation was for a romantic resort known for honeymoons, not self-discovery. The most devastating discovery came when I reached out to Maxwell Jason's former roommate. We met for a beer, and his revelation shook me to my core. Jason never actually broke up with Melissa, Maxwell told me. They took a break when she moved here for work, but they have been in contact the entire time. He told me months ago that they were working things out, that she was planning to leave her current situation. I was her current situation, a placeholder, while she maintained a long-distance relationship with the man she really wanted. That night I struggled with conflicting desires to confront her immediately, to pretend I knew nothing, to plan some grand revenge. The stress manifested physically. I could not eat. Sleep became impossible. I lost 5 pounds in 3 days. I scheduled an emergency session with a therapist I found online, needing professional guidance before I exploded or collapsed. The therapist helped me understand that my response needed to protect my dignity and mental health above all else. "What do you want the outcome to be?" the therapist asked. "Not what you wish would happen, but what realistic resolution would help you move forward." The answer came with surprising clarity. I wanted out. Completely out, with no drama, no begging, no second chances. The relationship was already dead, and I needed to acknowledge that and act accordingly. The day of Melissa's departure arrived with perfect, cruel sunshine. She frantically packed her suitcase, energy radiating from her in excited waves. I offered to drive her to the airport, a suggestion that visibly surprised her. "You do not mind?" she asked cautiously. "Of course not," I replied, with a genuine smile, the first real one in weeks. I had a plan now, and each part she unwittingly participated in gave me back a small piece of my power. Jason's face when he saw me at the airport drop-off was priceless, a mixture of guilt and territorial annoyance. He stood awkwardly beside his own luggage, while Melissa created a buffer between us. "Jason, you remember Blaze," she said unnecessarily. We shook hands, a bizarre formality given that he was about to take my girlfriend on a romantic getaway. "Take good care of her," I said, the double meaning clear only to me. Melissa gave me a quick cold hug goodbye, clearly eager to get through security and drop the pretense. I watched through the glass as they walked away, noticing how they transformed once they thought they were out of my sight. His arm slid possessively around her waist. She leaned into him, looking up with an expression of adoration I had not seen directed at me in months. I sat in the airport parking lot for nearly an hour, tears finally coming once I was alone. Not just tears of sadness, but of relief and clarity. The woman I loved did not exist. Perhaps she never had. Returning to our apartment felt strange, the space both familiar and foreign simultaneously. I walked through each room, seeing evidence of our shared life together. Photos of vacations, furniture we had picked out together, books with both our notes in the margins. In the back of our closet, I found a birthday gift I had purchased months ago, a vintage camera she had admired. I put it back in its hiding spot, knowing now she would never receive it. I poured myself a glass of whiskey and methodically reviewed our relationship timeline, searching for the moment it all went wrong. Had there been signs from the beginning that I had missed? Was I always just a temporary stop on her journey back to Jason Taylor, called that evening with news that felt like another blow? "I need to tell you something," he said reluctantly. Everyone knew Blaze. Most of our friends have seen them together over the past few months. Nobody wanted to be the one to tell you. I looked through old photos with this new knowledge, seeing clear signs I had deliberately ignored. The growing distance in her eyes, the decreasing frequency of pictures together, the evidence had been there all along. Later, while searching for a document in our shared filing cabinet, I discovered Melissa had been removing important items. Gradually, her birth certificate, passport, family heirlooms. She had been planning this exit for months. That night was my rock bottom. I drank too much, called her phone repeatedly with no answer, and finally fell asleep on the bathroom floor, utterly broken. I questioned everything about myself, my worth, my judgment, my entire reality. When morning came, something had changed. I woke with unexpected clarity and purpose. This was not about my failings, but her betrayal. I had been loyal, loving, and genuine. She had not. The path forward suddenly seemed obvious. That morning, I called Harris, an attorney friend, and discussed the legal aspects of separating our lives. We were not married, but after 3 years of cohabitation, there were complications to consider. Document everything, Harris advised. Take inventory of what you owned before the relationship, what was purchased jointly, and anything gifted specifically to you. I spent the day creating a detailed spreadsheet of our possessions with documentation where possible: furniture, electronics, kitchenware, everything. I took photos of our apartment in its current state, evidence of our shared life that would soon be dismantled. Next, I contacted a property management company across town and arranged to view an apartment. The unit was smaller than our current place, but had character hardwood floors, big windows, a small balcony. I signed a lease that afternoon, paying the deposit with money from my personal savings account. I calculated exactly how long the move would take. Melissa would be gone for 14 days. I needed 3 days to find an apartment, 3 days to pack, 1 day to move, and 1 day to settle in. That left 6 days as buffer for unexpected complications. The timeline was tight but feasible. My plan crystallized further as I created new bank accounts, transferred my direct deposit information, and began the process of financial separation. Each step felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. There was liberation in planning my escape rather than confronting her. No dramatic scenes, no begging or fighting, just a clean, complete extraction of myself from a situation that no longer served me. For the first time in months, I slept soundly. I took 3 personal days from work, explaining to my sympathetic manager that I was dealing with significant personal challenges. Friends rallied around me with surprising enthusiasm when I explained my plan. Finally, Taylor exclaimed, "I was worried you would forgive her again." Again, I asked, confused. Taylor's face fell. "You did not know about the other times, did you?" This new revelation should have hurt, but instead it reinforced my decision. Moving day arrived with 6 friends, 2 rented trucks, and a detailed plan of action. We worked methodically, taking only what was undeniably mine and items we had explicitly purchased together. I left all her possessions untouched, arranged neatly in the apartment. Midway through packing, I discovered a box in the back of our storage closet containing mementos from her relationship with Jason: concert tickets, dried flowers, handwritten letters. Items she had kept hidden throughout our entire relationship. The discovery stung, but also confirmed I was making the right choice. My friends commented on my unusual composure throughout the moving process. "I would be breaking things and setting stuff on fire," admitted Mark as he helped carry my desk to the truck. "This is not about revenge," I explained. "It is about reclaiming my life." By evening, my new apartment contained the physical elements of my life ready to be arranged into a new beginning. We ordered pizza, and my friends stayed late, turning a painful transition into something almost celebratory. To Blaze, Taylor toasted with beer raised high, who finally realized his own worth. The next day, I returned to the old apartment alone. I spent hours cleaning, making sure everything was spotless. I organized Melissa's remaining possessions, neatly treating her things with a respect she had not shown our relationship. I sat at the kitchen counter and wrote draft after draft of my farewell note. The first version was 5 pages of hurt and accusation. The second was coldly formal. By the 7th attempt, I found the perfect words, or rather the perfect simplicity, a small card with just 4 words written inside. I discovered myself too. I walked through the apartment one last time, memories in every corner. The couch where we had spent countless movie nights, the kitchen where we had cooked elaborate Sunday dinners, the bedroom where I had once believed we were building a future. Each space held ghosts of what I had thought was real. I placed my keys on the counter beside the note, positioned so it would be the first thing she saw upon entering. I had already changed my phone number, deleted and blocked her on all social media, and informed friends not to reveal my new location until I was ready. Locking the door from the outside for the final time felt ceremonial and ending, and a beginning wrapped into one simple action. On day 3 of Melissa's trip, she called for our prearranged check-in. I answered with carefully neutral responses, revealing nothing of the transformation occurring in her absence. "Everything okay at home?" she asked, the sounds of a resort pool in the background. "Everything is exactly as it should be," I responded truthfully. By day 5, her call came from what was supposedly a silent meditation retreat, but I could clearly hear party music and laughter in the background. I said nothing about the discrepancy, simply playing my role until the final act. On day 7, my former neighbor texted, "Heads up, Melissa called looking for you. Said she could not reach your phone." I played dumb like you asked. The first wave of frantic texts came to my work email, the only contact she could still access. "Where are you? Where is all your stuff? Call me. Immediately." "This is not funny, Blaze. What have you done? You had no right to just leave like this. We need to talk. Please call me. I can explain everything." Her tone shifted between anger, pleading, and threats. Each message confirmed my decision. I saved them all but responded to none. The voicemails began accumulating on my work phone, increasingly desperate. In the background of one, I could hear airport announcements. They had cut their trip short, rushing back to deal with the unexpected consequences of their actions. Most surprising was a separate message from Jason. "Hey man, I just wanted to say. Well, this is awkward, but I respect how you handled this." She was not honest with either of us, I think. For what it is worth, I am sorry. I silenced all notifications and focused on building my new space, finding unexpected peace in the process. For the first time in years, every decision from wall color to furniture arrangement reflected only my preferences. The freedom was intoxicating. My carefully constructed bubble burst when Melissa somehow discovered where I worked. She appeared in the lobby, demanding to see me creating such a scene that security eventually escorted her from the building. After that incident, I agreed to meet her once at a coffee shop near my office, a public location where emotions would need to be contained. She arrived looking disheveled, eyes red from crying, the composed woman I had known, replaced by someone frantic and uncertain. "How could you just leave?" she demanded immediately. No discussion, no chance to explain. Just a note. 3 years together, and that is all I deserve. "How much discussion did you give us before planning a romantic getaway with your ex?" I countered calmly. She tried every approach, tears, anger, minimizing what had happened, blaming me for driving her to Jason. When none worked, she attempted the truth. "Okay, yes, I was having an affair," she admitted finally. "But I came back. I chose you in the end. You came back because I left," I corrected her. "That is not the same as choosing me." Our conversation lasted 40 minutes, but nothing substantive was exchanged. She wanted the comfort and stability of our relationship, while maintaining her freedom to pursue others. I wanted integrity and honesty. These were fundamentally incompatible desires. As social circles realigned, some friends took her side, claiming I had overreacted to what was just a rough patch. Others firmly supported my decision. The division was illuminating, revealing which relationships had been genuine and which had been maintained through mutual convenience. Jason reached out again, this time with a comprehensive timeline of their affair, information that was painful but provided needed closure. It had indeed been going on for months, predating her self-discovery justifications. They had planned for her to gradually transition out of our relationship, but my unexpected departure had accelerated their timeline and created complications in their own dynamic. Healing did not happen overnight. The first evenings in my new apartment were quiet and sometimes lonely. I would reach for my phone to share a thought with Melissa, only to remember that chapter had closed. But gradually, the quiet became peaceful rather than empty. I reconnected with old friends who had drifted away during my relationship. My college roommate Patrick and I resumed our weekly basketball games. My cousin Sophia, who had never liked Melissa, became a regular visitor, bringing homemade cookies and horror movies. Weekly therapy sessions helped me process the betrayal without becoming bitter. My therapist challenged me to examine patterns in the relationship that I had accepted as normal but were actually problematic. The goal, she explained, is not to forget but to understand, so you can recognize these dynamics in the future. I rediscovered passions I had set aside. Photography classes on weekends. The guitar that had gathered dust in its case. Rock climbing at the indoor gym downtown. Each activity became a building block in my new identity, independent of my past relationship. The physical transformation followed naturally. Without consciously trying, I lost the stress weight I had gained. Regular exercise improved my sleep and energy levels. Friends commented on the change, not just in appearance but in confidence. Building new traditions was important too. Sunday mornings became hiking time regardless of weather. Thursday nights were for trying new restaurants solo, something that had always intimidated me before. I kept a journal documenting these small victories. The first holiday season alone loomed as a potential emotional minefield. I had expected painful nostalgia, but instead found liberation. I could visit my family without navigating complex interpersonal dynamics. Christmas music could play without triggering memories of our traditions. I donated to charity the gift I had purchased for Melissa months before releasing that final physical connection. A support group for relationship betrayal provided perspective I desperately needed. Hearing others share similar experiences reassured me that my reactions were normal, my boundaries reasonable, my healing possible. We celebrated each other's progress, however small. Professionally, I channeled my emotional energy into creative problem-solving at work. The focus and determination I brought to rebuilding my personal life spilled over into my career. 6 months after moving out, I received a promotion I had been working toward for years. New friendships developed naturally connections based on authentic shared interests rather than social obligation. My neighbor in the new building, Anthony, introduced me to rock climbing. A woman in my photography class, Diane, became a valued friend who challenged my artistic perspective. When I finally felt ready to date again, I approached it with cautious optimism. No rush, no desperate need to replace what was lost, just openness to possibilities. I learned to identify red flags I had previously ignored and to communicate boundaries clearly from the beginning. My relationships with family strengthened significantly. My sister admitted she had seen concerning behavior from Melissa at family gatherings but had stayed silent to support my choice. Never again, she promised. From now on, I tell you if someone is treating you badly. The most important growth came in finding a balanced perspective on what had happened. I could acknowledge the good parts of our relationship without using them to excuse the betrayal. I could recognize my own blind spots without taking responsibility for her choices. I could feel gratitude for the painful but necessary awakening the experience provided. 6 months after leaving, I unexpectedly saw Melissa at a mutual friend's gallery opening. We nodded politely across the room but did not speak. There was no animosity in the acknowledgement, just recognition of a significant shared history and the knowledge that we had both moved forward, albeit in different directions. That brief encounter crystallized the most profound lesson from my journey. Self-respect must be the foundation of love, not its sacrifice. True partnership enhances your identity rather than requiring its suppression. Real self-discovery comes through integrity and honesty, not escape and deception. The painful awakening had led to unexpected positive outcomes in every area of my life. My home reflected my true preferences. My career had advanced. My friendships were deeper and more genuine. My understanding of healthy relationships had fundamentally evolved. This transformation did not make me cynical about love, just more discerning about its authentic forms. I now recognize that boundaries are not barriers to intimacy, but its prerequisites. Trust is not given blindly, but built through consistent actions. And sometimes the bravest response to betrayal is not confrontation, but simply walking away. Have you ever had to make a difficult choice that ultimately led to personal growth? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to hear more journeys of resilience and self-discovery. Remember that sometimes the hardest decisions lead to the greatest transformation. Thank you for listening, and I hope this story helps someone find the courage to choose themselves when necessary.